improbable, the impossible has happened.
A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win it!
You know what time it is.
The most amazing, sensational, dramatic.
Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with the rejection. Holy cow! Oh my God!
I don't believe it. It just continues. My, oh my.
You believe in miracles?
Do you know what time it is?
I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
Welcome back into another episode of the Sports Hour. This is Mitch-Mo.
And this is Dallen. Guys, welcome back in. It is good to be here. Mitch, it is a Wednesday, my dudes.
It is a Wednesday.
It's so good to be here. It's a great time of year, Mitch. The NFL playoffs are about to begin this weekend with Super Wild Card Weekend. So a jam-packed show today. Going to be previewing all those games, the 6 Wild Card Weekend games. We'll also be looking back at the 2022 season and some of our predictions from before the season began. We'll look at maybe what we got right, where we were wrong, and how we got to where we are now. As well, news as always, react to the national championship game and Georgia's crushing blow to TCU. And I will reveal my top 10 mock draft, my first mock draft, the 2023 NFL draft, just the top 10 today. And we'll get a live reaction from Mitch on that, on what he thinks of some of those picks. So a jam-packed show today. But first, I got to ask, my friend, how are you doing? You look good. How are you doing? You feel good?
I look good. I feel good. Feel good. Play good. Play
Hey.
good. Pod good. Pod good. Feel good. Feel good. Look good. It's a circle. It all goes together. So
That was
Yeah.
amazing.
yeah,
I'm enthralled.
I feel really
You
good.
You just took us on a journey there, and I'm in. I think that's right.
Yeah.
The wordplay
I-
there, dude. That was incredible. I'm just like, that was some Marshall Mathers type stuff, Mitch.
I spit bars. What can I say? I spit
you caught me
bars.
off guard, my friend. I mean, one of us used to be a rapper, and it wasn't you, but look at you
It
go.
wasn't
I'm
me.
just-
Yeah.
turns out it should have been you. Just saying. Crazy.
Oh, man.
I love it, man. It's good to be here. We are live as we have been to start the year, as we have been since December. So if you are watching live on YouTube or on Twitter, hello. Thanks for joining. Let us know if you're watching. Say hi in the comments. If you have anything to say about anything that we talk about, feel free to share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. If you're listening to the podcast later on this week, we welcome you. Thanks for listening. It is good to be here. So, Mitch, no more time to waste. No more, no more, wading water here. It's time to jump in. We got to jump in here with the news.
That's right. Let's get into the news and notes around the world of sports. Let's get into the news. Woo!
Yes,
Another
sir.
week in news, buddy. Another week in
Love
news.
the news. All right. And we will start off the news, Mitch, with an important update and a great update for DeMar
Mhm.
Hamlin,
Yes.
who is doing much, much better. DeMar Hamlin discharged from the Buffalo hospital and is home as of today, like headed home with his family today. He's gone through a lot of medical evaluations. Obviously, it left Cincinnati, returned to Buffalo, stayed 2 days in a hospital there. But again, he's home now. He's good. And it's honestly a miracle what he's been able to do, having gone through what he did a week and a half ago. So we are so glad to hear the good news about DeMar Hamlin, and he obviously continues to be in all of our thoughts and prayers, but a great update here to start off the podcast.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what a turnaround and recovery this young man has made. It's just so good to hear that he's in good health and good spirits, that he's improving day by day. Clearly, this is just I am a religious man, so this to me is just shows the power of prayer and support that he's gotten over the last few days, and this is just it's just fantastic news to hear that he's doing well and is on the mend and is going to be okay. So great news to hear about DeMar. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, no, fantastic. And I'm sure if there's any way for him, and I don't know the medical state he's currently in, I don't know if it's possible. I don't even know if it's recommended, but if there's any way that he could be at that game this weekend, if there's any way that he could be there to bring the energy to that team and that crowd, I mean, just imagine that moment. What that would, I mean, that'd just be incredible. Again,
I mean,
if it's not best for his health, please stay home, DeMar. But I'm just saying that could be, I give me goosebumps just thinking about it.
I mean, you know what he's thinking though. If he can be there, he wants to be there. I mean, this is that type of guy. And neutral site or not, it doesn't matter where they play. That would be an electric atmosphere to see. The welcoming back of DeMar Hamlin, all the things that he's had to go through over the last couple of weeks, just an incredible story and recovery, and so glad to see that he's doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great update there, Mitch. Let's move into more NFL news, and we have to talk head coach firings. Black Monday, the day after the regular season ends, is usually a day where quite a few people lose their jobs, and this year was no different. We had already had 3 openings occur throughout the season, right? Carolina back in October, then shortly followed by Indianapolis, and then Denver, right? Just a few weeks before the end of the season, as we discussed here a few weeks ago. But on Black Monday, Lovie Smith, the head coach of the Texans, was let go after just a single season there with the organization. And Cliff Kingsbury out as the Cardinals head coach after signing an extension back in March that took him through the 2027 season. As well, the GM, Steve Keim, agreed to step down, whatever that means. You love to see how they spin these moves sometimes with the wording there, but those were the 2 moves made. So 5 head coach openings now in the NFL. But let's get your reaction here to these 2 that occurred on Black Monday.
Well, as a Chicago Bears fan, I'm a huge Lovie Smith guy. I love Lovie Smith. I love Lovie. How about that?
Or not to love Lovie.
I think he's a great football-minded, great football coach. He was put in a really, really tough situation, being, the head coach of the Houston Texans. A lot of people will like to point at the fact that maybe because they won that Week 18 game, that may have been the straw that broke the camel's back. But Lovie Smith is a football coach, and he goes out there trying to coach teams to a win week in and week out. So they got the win in dramatic fashion. And I think for people to maybe assume or to think that maybe that was the reason to let him go, I think that the Houston organization is incompetent, but I don't think that they're that crooked to fire someone for winning when they win a game that maybe they should have maybe not won and gotten that first overall pick.
If anything, he probably already knew he was getting fired, and that was his middle finger on the way out of like, well, now you don't get the number 1 pick, so screw you guys.
Maybe
I'm gonna go win a damn game.
But I think Lovie will find a job in football still. It's probably not going to be a head coaching position, but he'll find his way as a coordinator or a positions coach. He's still going to be involved in football in some capacity. As far as the Cliff Kingsbury firing goes, thank God for the for the sake of the Arizona Cardinals organization. Thank God Cliff Kingsbury is out of there. He tried to bring the air raid offense over into the NFL. It clearly didn't work with Kyler Murray. Clearly him and Kyler did not ever get on the same page. And it's a good thing that Cliff Kingsbury right now just does not have a head coach. You could tally it up to being young and inexperienced and maybe not being totally ready for sustained success. His coaching prowess, even at the collegiate level, there wasn't a whole lot of experience there to begin with when he got this head coaching job. So maybe you could tally it up to that, but I think that Cliff Kingsbury still will find a job in the NFL. I think he'd be a great offensive coordinator. I don't think he's ready for a head coaching job again right now as of the moment. So a good thing that Arizona is ready to move on and they can open up to other opportunities inside the league.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, clearly things didn't work out there in Arizona. And I think you have a good point there, Mitch. Oftentimes these first-time head coaches don't work out, right? But the second time around, it does. It's much better, you have that experience, you know what to expect, you don't make some of the same mistakes, and it's easier to transition quicker to a winning culture and sustain success. And so, maybe that comes down the road for him. We will see. He is certainly going to be an interesting name when it comes to offensive coordinator openings. And there are quite a few, Mitch. I want to add these as well as we talk about these head coaching openings, but some of the coordinators as well. Offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans, Todd Downing, is out in Tennessee. He is gone, including a lot of that staff there as well. Offensive coordinator Scott Turner was fired in Washington, taking a large blame there for their problems, which isn't really fair. Most of these, that's usually how it goes. And then Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator for the Jets today, to leave New York for, quote, other opportunities. Apparently, he and the Jets discussed, and other teams have reached out about his other opportunities, and they've agreed to let him explore those other opportunities. Mitch, you'll love that. I mean, just say like you want to fire the guy, and you need a scapegoat for why you didn't make the playoffs, for why Zach Wilson sucks, for why the offense was ass, no matter who played quarterback. Like, just say you need a scapegoat and he's the guy, right? We don't need to do these. It was mutually beneficial for us to part ways at this time. You know what I mean? Come on. What are we doing?
That's the most passive-aggressive way to ever say it was an amicable split. I mean, he got fired without actually getting fired. So, good for him. He's going to go find other opportunities. Good for him.
Yeah, and he will be an OC somewhere. But you look at Cliff Kingsbury, and I think he's going to be interesting for some of these possibilities. But also when you look at some of the openings right now and who could a head coach bring him, Carolina, Indianapolis, Denver, right? Like, can somebody bring him in alongside them and say, this is my OC, I'm bringing in Cliff? Like, would that, can that situation work out? It'll be interesting to see where he is. Did he go back down to college for a year before, coming back, working his way up to the NFL? So that'll be interesting. Just to note some of these early candidates for these specific jobs, there's not a lot out of Arizona right now. What we do know is that there will be interest in elevating Vance Joseph, who is currently the defensive coordinator, to the head coach spot. Obviously, he has head coach experience previously, so there's, and he's well liked and respected in that organization. The defense has been one of the most solid things about this tenure for the Arizona Cardinals. So that will be interesting to watch. Also, Sean Payton connected to that job potentially if he's interested. He has reportedly done his homework on that job. That's the report so far. As far as for Houston goes, D'Amico Ryans, the San Francisco DC and former Houston Texan, will be getting an interview alongside both Philadelphia Eagles coordinators, Jonathan Gannon, the DC, and Shane Steichen, the OC. Ben Johnson, the Detroit Lions OC, will get an interview. Ejiro Evero, the Denver Broncos DC, will get an interview, and Mike Kafka, the New York Giants OC, will also get an interview. So a lot of names there, but they're clearly looking younger, Mitch. They went David Coley, 60 plus, 1 year, he's out. Lovie Smith, 60 plus, 1 year, he's out. Those were all holdovers, right? Lovie was screwed in this situation, just like David Coley was screwed the year before. These guys were all holdovers because they didn't get the guys they really wanted. But clearly Houston is motivated and focused in this. They're targeting young guys, young coaches, a lot of first-time head coaches. They'd all be first-time head coaches. So there's some interesting names there in the mix for Houston.
Yeah, a lot of interesting names in the mix there. So I don't think there's a favorite right now. I think that you're walking into a tough situation. You have to be willing to unfortunately, you have to be willing to bear a large amount of that blame at the end of the year if things don't go well. And that's just the situation Houston's in because they're in a rebuilding period and it's tough to be put in that situation. So Godspeed to whoever takes that position because that's one of the toughest spots to take right now in football.
You know, I think that's fair. I do think that's fair. I will say though, a year or two ago, I would 100% agree with you, but now there's some foundational pieces. You look at like Derek Stingley, who they got in the draft last year. I think, you know, you've got a really good player on that side. You have the number 2 pick this year. So you're going to get a quarterback of the future. If you want one, if you're a coach and you say, you know, I like one of these guys, I can go get him. You can get him and you have the number 12 pick. So you're going to get another high quality player and you could start sort of building a foundation now. Like you're still going to suck this year, right? You're not going to go straight to winning, but you're sort of you could see them sort of cresting, you know, the rebuild. And now they're headed towards what could be a future of success. So it might be a good time to get in now. We will see.
Yeah, time will tell, but you know, it's going to be a really, really tough situation for that coach. Being part of a rebuild is always tough. So it's going to be
absolutely. Mitch, one other NFL thing is before we move on, reports out of Arizona alongside all of this movement. As we mentioned, Steve Keim, the GM, will step down. So will be a new GM in Arizona alongside a new head coach. Kyler Murray will stay put. He's signed a big extension. They're locked in with that. It's a lot of money. He's not going anywhere. But DeAndre Hopkins is reportedly will be on the trade block at least this offseason. They will plan on trying to trade the former All-Pro. He has 2 years, $34 million left on his contract and is likely to seek a new deal. So $17 million a year. It's not an egregious amount. It's not a horrible amount for someone to take on. But there will only be, you know, certain teams in the running. I tweeted this out yesterday, but if I were the Chicago Bears or if I was the New York Giants, I would just have the phone ready to go. And the minute that new GM gets installed in Arizona, I'd be making that call, right? I mean, I think those two off the top of my head immediately came to mind as teams with young, cheap quarterbacks who could eat paying a guy 15 plus, you know, who's in his prime, maybe fading out, but can make an impact now. Those two came to mind there. So I don't know your thoughts on that. Would you be interested in D-Hop for your Chicago Bears, or is there another team that you thought could be potentially a good fit?
We have so much cap space. We
$100 million, right? I mean, it's like, we
cannot be more interested.
Okay, I love it.
DeAndre Hopkins. We couldn't be. I mean, at least from a fan's perspective. This guy's on the backside of his 20s, still has prime level talent. We can go and pay him for 3 years, you know, $15-18 million a year and go get this guy. And you know what? Justin Fields just needs a guy. That's all he needs is a guy. Yep. Like, we have good complementary piece. Chase Claypool is a good complementary piece, right? Dante Pettis sucks balls, but, you know, I'm not going to hold against Dante Pettis because he's always sucked balls. You know, Darnell Mooney is a good complementary piece. If we could just get a guy there in free agency, then you could turn your focus to, okay, we have the big weapon. We have a young tight end that has shown some spurts of promise, at least. Let's go address the offensive line and protect him. And let's make sure that we could, because let's stick with Chicago Bears MO, which is run game first. Run game and good defense, right? The defense is good. It's just really, really young.
Yep.
You have to give it some time. Let's go address the offensive line, protect our young quarterback, give him the opportunities to go hit that big playmaker, and feed the complementary pieces around him. I mean, like I said, I think I said this in our fantasy football chat room earlier this year. It's the most promising 3-win team I've ever seen in my life because there is like the opportunities are so endless with them. They just have to nail it. They just have to do it right. And as we get closer to draft season, we'll talk about how much I don't want them to take this pick at the number 1 overall, how much I want them to trade out of this and get something more for it, right? Because that's where the value is really going to be, because there's not this generational type player in this draft. There's just a lot of really good ones. Go trade back and get a bunch of good pieces around your future franchise quarterback. And I think it starts right now in the offseason with go pursue D-Hop. Get him on a 3-year deal and bring something in that Justin Fields can actually throw, bring him in so Justin Fields actually has someone to throw the ball to.
Yeah. I hypothetical here, and I know that you already traded a second-round pick for a wide receiver. That second-round pick, by the way, turned out to be the 33rd pick in the draft. So very valuable asset straight away for Chase Claypool. But you did get a second-round pick via San Francisco from Miami. They have a second-round pick, I believe, in the late round. Maybe it's from the Colts. Would you be interested in trading a second-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins? Like, is that... whether it's that or it's from the trade package as you move back, but a second round pick for DeAndre Hopkins, you're in on that.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to, because you just spent the 11th overall pick 2 years ago on a guy that could be a future franchise quarterback for you. You have to be
up. You traded draft capital. And
you
traded
have
up
to be willing.
That guy.
You have to be willing to invest that in him.
Yep.
If you really want to show him from a franchise, from an organizational standpoint, if you really want to show him that he's your guy and that you're committed to making this work with him, you have to be able to show that. And yes, absolutely trade the second round pick for D-Hop. Absolutely. I mean, that's like a snap deal for me. Like, I'm like, yeah absolutely. Trade. Yeah. Second rounder for D-Hop, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go anymore, but I think that...
Well, he's not worth the first anymore, but
but I think that's a comfortable range, knowing that you have to pay him and what that'll cost. But it will be interesting to see. Again, I think that Chicago came to mind. The New York Giants, who desperately need a weapon there, could certainly be interested. They will have cap space as well. But it's a good time for Arizona to try to shop DeAndre Hopkins, because the free agency class for wide receivers is not good. We're talking like Alan Lazard and Jacoby Myers are the best options on the free agent market. So, and so far, doesn't look like we're going to have a Tyreek Hill or an AJ Brown or a guy like that become available via trade like we did last year. So it might be DeAndre Hopkins is the best option out there. And Arizona's probably going to be able to get a pretty penny for that asset. So we shall see.
Right. Yeah. No, 100%.
Mitch, let's move into our MLB news. Few things to note here. Let's start with the Dodgers. It was announced this week that they have cut ties with starting pitcher Trevor Bauer, former Cy Young winner who they signed, and then it was handed an unprecedented suspension following allegations of sexual assault. Just 2 weeks ago, an independent arbitrator trimmed his suspension from 324 games to 194, which reinstated him immediately. And as a result, Dodgers had to decide what to do. They've ultimately decided to cut Bauer. He will likely become a free agent if he clears by noon tomorrow on Thursday. Dodgers will be on the hook for $22.5 million that Bauer is owed. But ultimately, I mean, this guy hasn't played in years. Very messed up situation that was in, and ultimately just a huge distraction. It would feel weird to bring him back at this point, honestly. It makes sense for the Dodgers to have cut him. I wonder about the timing as a Dodgers fan. Like, could you have cut him years ago? Was there a reason to hold on to him? Could you have done it while he was being suspended? I don't know, like, what that would have meant contractually for them, what they would have owed him financially as a result. I don't really know how that works. But ultimately, like, I'm just glad to have moved on and glad to just not have to worry about it anymore. Honestly, as a Dodgers fan, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, from an outside perspective looking in, there were a lot of questions surrounding these allegations.
Mm-hmm.
I won't get into them, and so I feel like that there is there's just not a whole lot for me to say here. That I think that, yeah, though maybe the allegations were, I don't know, I don't want to say false, but fabricated in a certain sense, then yeah, it's still a distraction. And, there's still a lot of questions to be answered. So it's probably good that the Dodgers separated themselves from this situation regardless. So other than that, I don't really have a whole lot to say out of that. They're going to have to eat $22 million. And I guess if there's an organization in baseball that can eat $22 million, it's probably the Dodgers because they have so much money. It's ridiculous. So,
without even blinking, they, yeah. I mean, it will be interesting to see if anyone takes the bait on him. Does anyone give him a shot? It will be interesting to see that. I mean, because obviously
I would.
Prior to all this, he was extremely talented, but he's also been away from the league for 2 full seasons, right? And so, I'm not that he's not in shape, but do you care to bring him back into this mix? Is that, do you feel comfortable with his character when you bring him in, that he'll fit? And, there's a lot to sort of play out here, having been away for so long. So we'll see.
And I would. I know he's always been a difficult character to deal with, even before the allegations.
Yes.
So, but I would feel comfortable bringing him in and giving him a shot. So I don't know. I guess that's just where I stand. By the way, Pat, I'm glad you're done walking your catfish. I'm glad you can be here with us. So,
oh yes,
yeah. So
thanks
glad
for
that
listening.
catfish got his walk. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
We stand behind walking all of your pets, those with legs and even those without. We don't discriminate. So
that's right.
Mitch, other bit of MLB news is Carlos Correa drama that we talked about recently on the podcast continues. I guess it's finalized. He has a final destination. It's not the Giants. It's not the Mets. No, it's back to the Twins. It's back in Minnesota. So this whole saga with Correa, just to recap for those may not have been familiar or remembered, back on December 13th, it was announced he signed a deal, $350 million deal to become the face of the Giants, signed with the San Francisco Giants, set to make more than Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, Dansby Swanson, all those other shortstops on the market. 4th largest deal in baseball history. And then a week later, the Giants delayed the announcement of his signing due to a difference of opinion in regards to his medicals. That ended up falling through completely. And then a day later, on December 21st, the New York Mets, it was announced that they had signed him to a 12-year, $315 million deal. More years, less money, but still a significant deal. Then 3 days after that, December 21st, the Mets announced they had their own concerns about his physicals and his medicals. And here we have sat until yesterday, January 10th, when it was announced the saga is over. He's finally signed and he's returning to Minnesota on a 6-year, $200 million deal. So that is where we stand on Carlos Correa, 28-year-old, signing for hundreds of millions of dollars and bounced around all over all these different deals. Weeks go by, and here we are. He's back with Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. I thought he might be. It's back with Minnesota.
Yeah,
that's the only team that probably would be willing to take him. So, it's one of the situations where I still don't think that he was worth the 6-year deal. I've been a huge proponent of this. I'm not a big fan of big long deals, right? And I thought that maybe after 2 failed physicals with 2 different teams, maybe they weren't really, no one was going to be willing to commit more than just a couple of years to this guy. The Twins apparently, they had him for a year. They know what he's worth. So, they know his physical situation. Maybe they feel a little bit more comfortable offering a longer term deal. So, a front-loaded contract. Sounds like he's going to be still on the hook for a lot of money, even though his contract will be up. So, that it's severely front-loaded. It's back-loaded in the sense that he's still going to be owed money by the Twins even after he's done playing with them after his age 33 season. So, it just kind of wound up where I thought it was going to be. It kind of wound up where I thought it was going to be. Maybe not the contract I thought that he was going to get, but back in Minnesota, probably where he should have re-signed all along, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, what a headache for all those other teams. You probably dodged a bullet if you're the Giants and the Mets. If you're a Giants-Mets fan, just I guess that's your solace. You probably dodged a bullet with all that drama around these physicals. Probably work out for the best for you to not have committed all that money to him. So, interesting to see how that all played out. But yes, back in Minnesota there for Carlos Correa. Mitch, we got to do a little NASCAR update for the folks. So how about you break this down? We got some news around Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, so Jimmy Johnson, he retired from NASCAR at the end of the 2020 season, I believe it was. Went and ran an IndyCar for a couple years. Found very mild success. Didn't find a whole lot of success in those series. But he is back in NASCAR on a limited schedule. In fact, he is a part-time owner, or a partial owner of the former Petty GMS racing stable, which they have rebranded to Legacy MC, Legacy Motor Club, which sounds like you should be a British guy, be like, Legacy Motor Club. That's what it sounds like to me. I'm not sure how I feel about the name of that, really. But Jimmy Johnson back in NASCAR as a partial owner, and will be partaking in some of these races. 5 races on his schedule this year so far, the first one being the Daytona 500. And he will run the number 84 car. So just his legendary 48 number flipped around. A lot of people speculated maybe it was going to be 49 because 7-time champion Jimmy Johnson, 7-time champion Richard Petty, 7 times 7 is 49. Maybe they run the 49 car. The Petty's known for running car numbers in the 40s. So maybe that made a lot of sense. But honestly, 84 makes the most sense to me. And that's what he will be doing on a part-time schedule with his first race being in Daytona. He will also bring in the sponsorship Carvana for the Daytona 500. So a big sponsorship, obviously for a big name driver, a guy with a winning pedigree. 84 also, by the way, Jimmy Johnson sitting right now at 83 wins, maybe 84, dangling the carrot in front of him a little bit to get to number 84. So, but good to see Jimmy Johnson back in the sport, though. I as much as people maybe are annoyed by him because of how much he wins, right? Everyone doesn't want to see the same guy win week in and week out. But he's a legend of the sport. He's one of the all-time great drivers, and it's good to see him back in a cup car, and even if it is on a limited schedule, and to see him as an owner now, a majority owner. Is a really cool thing to see happen. So welcome back to Jimmy Johnson. Glad to see him back on the racetrack.
Yeah, that's great. I love the 84. I love the inverse there. I think it's a very clever idea. So that's great stuff.
Good number shot home. Good number.
Yeah, absolutely. And we love, you don't see many in the 80s, 90s, right? Those big numbers. You don't see that very often. So I love that too. Mixing it up just a bit. Mitch, we got to do a Kraken update for the folks, our weekly Kraken update, and the boys are balling. 24, 12, and 4 on the season, 52 points, little 6-game win streak. Mitch, I just gotta say, the Kraken have not lost since 2022. All right.
Woo-hoo!
I'm just saying, we haven't lost since 2022, a 6-game win streak in the month of January. 3rd in the Pacific Division, 5th in the Western Conference, and they just continue to roll, and you love to see it. As we talked about before, they had a hot start to this season, hit a skid, but 500 skid, not a below 500 skid, but just, leveled out skid. But here they are right back at it, after the holidays, boom, right back, 6-game win streak. Love to see it.
You do love to see it. I mean, you look at these guys, they're only 4 points out of the Pacific Division lead. They have the best goal differential in their division and the 3rd best point differential in their entire conference. They're outplaying the Kings right now. As of late, they've been outplaying the Golden Knights. This looks like right now the best team in their division, and clearly one of the best teams in their conference. So the Kraken are the boys are pucking. I don't know if you can say balling, but they're pucking now.
Dude, they're pucking rolling right now. That's what's going on.
They're mother pucking rolling. Let's go.
They're an offensive juggernaut, Mitch, right? I mean, they put 8 goals up on the Senators last week. They're 3rd in goals per game right now, 3.68 average, only behind the Buffalo Sabres and Boston Bruins. So they are just an offensive juggernaut. They are relentless on the attack, and it has worked this season. It has worked. Now, will it sustain? Will it continue? We shall see, but you love to see it. We're very proud of the boys. Continue to support the Kraken. Let's go.
7-2-1 in their last 10 and a 6-game win streak. Love to see it. Love
to see it. Mitch, let's time to wrap up the news, jump over to the campus tour. And we have to start this off with, man, this is not fun. Okay.
No, it's not fun.
This is not fun. This was supposed to be fun, Mitch. This was supposed to be fun. We had the Horn Dogs, the TCU Horned Frogs in the national championship against Georgia. A chance for a miraculous win, a great story. And it was none of that. Georgia just absolutely demolished TCU 65-7. They led 38-7 at halftime and then did not let up in the second half. I mean, just nothing going for TCU. Just absolutely outmanned, just out-talented. It was clear the difference between those two teams. And it's a shame, Mitch. It's a shame because this TCU team is really good. They absolutely deserved to be in this game. They earned that win over Michigan. They earned their spot in this playoff, and they earned their spot in the national championship game, and they got walloped. And if you hate TCU, you want to doubt them, or you want to say this and that, now you got the ammo because they lost, Mitch, by 58 points, which is the biggest loss in a bowl game in college football history. Not the championship game, not the college football playoff game, but any bowl game ever. There's never been a bigger blowout in a bowl game than what happened on Monday night in the national title game. And that is just a shame because this TCU team had a special season and is a great team. And it's a shame that they had this performance on this stage because they were good. Georgia was great. Georgia deserved this. Georgia was incredible, but I just feel disappointed.
I was dreading this part of the podcast, to be honest with you, because no one wants to talk about this. Like, no one wants to talk about this.
Especially the Bama fan.
And that's exactly why I'm having a new addition into the pit of misery. Dilly to the Georgia Bulldogs. For stinking up the national title game. I mean,
didn't you put TCU in the game for stinking it up? Because it's not TCU. No. It's not Georgia's fault. TCU scored 7 points.
No, but the Bulldogs didn't have to put 65 on them. They didn't have to. They just continued to throw the football. They continued to rip off big plays. They didn't have
less
to do
fun
this.
if they won 42-7. If the whole second half was just like run the ball, punt. Like that'd have been boring. At least we get the greatest blowout ever. You know?
Well, I don't care. I am the warden of this.
There you are. I'm
the warden of the pit of misery, and Georgia Bulldogs are in. So dilly for stinking up the natty. They're in. Look, I mean, you're 100% correct. The TCU Horned Frogs are absolutely a great team. And we're 100% deserving of this. Some people will say, like, Michigan should have deserved to get in. Ohio State should have deserved to get in over them. But yeah, well, you know what? They didn't win. They didn't get in over these guys. TCU won when it mattered. And, they got blown out. I don't think I know you and I were on TCU. I think there was a lot of people on TCU because we wanted the feel-good story. I didn't think that it would be this bad, though. No. I really didn't. And here we are talking about a 65-7 game, and I look at this score and I'm in shock of how lopsided this game was. And I don't think that's indicative of the talent of these two teams.
No.
I think TCU is a far more talented team than what we saw on Monday night. And, It sucks, but it's reality. It sucks,
Yep.
but it's reality. This is
Yeah.
the world we live in.
And Georgia is that good. I mean, back-to-back national titles now for the Dogs. Stetson Bennett, incredible in the playoffs. He has been his entire career, was last year, was this year. 4 touchdowns, 300 yards in this game. Through the air, 2 on the ground, so 6 total. Brock Bowers, tight end, 7 receptions, 152 yards and a touchdown. I mean, Georgia was relentless. They were, dominant from the beginning and very impressive. It makes you wonder now does it feel like the power is shifting in college football a bit? Does it feel like Georgia, it feels to me that Georgia has the opportunity ahead of itself to really take hold of college football if they build off of this momentum. It's not guaranteed by winning back-to-back national titles, but this could boost recruiting. If you start getting the top quarterbacks and offensive talent, on this team, not just the running backs and the trench guys and what you normally get, but if you start getting top quarterbacks on this team and top wide receivers, Georgia could really become that consistent year in and year out best team in college football. They're capable of it, and they're setting the foundation for it right now.
That reminded me, I need to add another person into the pit of misery. That reminded me. I'm putting David Pollock in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, ESPN's David Pollock. Yeah, okay.
For saying that Georgia is taking over college football, it's not theirs to. It's not theirs to take. It's Alabama's still. So dilly, David Pollock is in. You know what? I'm putting everything that supports Georgia and it goes against Alabama in the pit of misery because I'm sour about this win. I'm sour about this win.
Yeah. Can't have them all, but it's tough to, listen, it creates for fun competition because now you look at the SEC and it's like, man, now you got Alabama and Georgia and, it's a head-to-head battle now between those two powers, and that's very fun for the sport. I think it's good things. So not a good outcome for the game, but an incredible college football season we've had so much fun talking about on the podcast, and I'm sad that it's officially come to an end, but as all things must, it has come to an end, and we will transition our focus fully over to the NFL draft and the campus tour segment. It'll sort of transition over to an NFL draft segment week by week as we get ready for April and the upcoming NFL draft. Mitch, before we get to some NFL draft stuff, though, a quick transfer portal update. We just a few names to mention, not too much. But Sam Hartman, the former Wake Forest starting quarterback, is going to Notre Dame. We talked about this as the expected outcome, but officially announced he is joining the Fighting Irish. This is a big addition. Sam Hartman, probably by most considered the best quarterback available in the portal this offseason. So a huge get for Notre Dame to land his efforts and a huge upgrade over Drew Pine and Tyler Buckner from this past season. A Fighting Irish team that showed down the stretch that they had a lot of talent. We're clearly not a top 5, top 10 team as the preseason polls indicated, but a lot of talent on this team. A good quarterback like Hartman is really going to make a difference. Excited to see what kind of impact he's going to have. Brennan Armstrong, the other guy, your guy, Mitch, former Virginia Cavalier, entered the transfer portal. He's rejoining his former offensive coordinator, Robert Anae, who was the offensive coordinator previously at Virginia, had joined the Syracuse staff, and now is with North Carolina State. That is where Brendan Armstrong will be staying in the ACC, but headed to NC State. A big addition, I think, for them to replace Devin Leary. So thoughts on those two transfer portal moves, Mitch?
I mean, the Sam Hartman thing, obviously, we were both big on him going to Notre Dame. Great get for Notre Dame. Probably one of the most talented quarterbacks in the entire nation right now. Great get for Notre Dame. But I love this move for Brendan Armstrong, getting reunited with his OC. And I'm going to remain a big Brendan Armstrong guy. I have a lot of belief in this guy's talent. I think he just needs to be in the right system on a better program. And NC State is a huge leap up from University of Virginia right now. So, a great move for both quarterbacks, and excited to see what they can do in their brand new programs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're both really good fits, and we'll be excited to see what that looks like moving forward. So Mitch, that will that we've got to wrap up the campus tour here. One more thing before we hit our mid-roll, and it's time for some draft talk. It's mock draft season, Mitch. I'm very excited about this. I did a mock draft last year for the NFL draft, and we'll continue it this year. But we're going to start this off now with a top 10 mock draft. So we don't have the full draft order as the playoffs are yet to play out. So technically we have the top 18 decided in order. But I thought, let's start with the top 10. We'll have an article coming out tomorrow on the Sports Hour with my top 10, a little more breakdown, but we'll talk about it here on the podcast. A live reveal. Mitch has not seen these picks, so I'm going to get some reaction from him and reaction from you if you're listening live, watching on YouTube or on Twitter. If you have any thoughts on any of these picks, let me know. Let us know with a comment below any of your thoughts. But Mitch, I think what we'll do is I'm going to start with like 3 picks. We'll go 3 picks at a time. We'll get a little flavor here and get your thoughts on these. Okay. But we're going to stick in the top 10 and a few things here. Obviously, I did no trades in these scenarios, so no trade up. Now we'll discuss where I think some trade ups could happen, but no trades in this mock draft. So that is to be considered. Other than that, everything else is fair game, just the top 10. And we'll keep it at that. So, Mitch, to start off the top 3 in my mock draft at number 1, your Chicago Bears. They will stay and pick Jalen Carter, the defensive lineman out of Georgia, one of the best defensive prospect in the draft, in my opinion. Jalen Carter, number 1 pick. Number 2 pick, Houston Texans. I have them taking Bryce Young, the Alabama quarterback, number 1 quarterback on the board. My number 1 quarterback, the best quarterback in this draft. And then at number 3, the Arizona Cardinals taking Will Anderson, the edge linebacker from Alabama. So those are the top 3 picks. Number 1, Jalen Carter to the Bears. Number 2, Bryce Young to the Texans. Number 3, Will Anderson to the Cardinals. Any thoughts here, Mitch?
Well, I sure hope we're not taking Jalen Carter number 1 overall. I hope that we're, trading out of that number 1 overall pick. But I guess if there's something that, if we're sticking with what you just said right now, I think that's the best fit, right?
Yeah.
The big bodied guy in the middle that we can get. Will Anderson. I love Will Anderson. He's not worthy of that number 1 overall pick, though. I think that there's some health concerns after the injuries this last year. We don't need a quarterback, so it's not going to be Bryce Young. So this seems like the best possible pick for us to take, which is even more. It even feeds in more to the argument of why they should trade out of the number 1 and not take Will Anderson or Bryce Young, because it certainly seems like this is going to be the best that they can do. Based off need, we should be trading out of the number 1 overall pick. Bryce Young, great fit in Houston. Clearly need a quarterback. Davis Mills is not the answer. Get that giraffe out of here with his long ass neck. That's clearly going to be the best choice that Houston can take. And Will Anderson going number 3. I don't think you can go wrong with him. Super talented, a super athletic defensive end. You could put him in a 3-point. You could stand him up. I think that he has a ton to add to any defensive scheme. So I have no qualms with your top 3 there, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty chalk. Listen, it's not, you're not getting extreme here at the top. And obviously Chicago likely to trade out. So those first 2 picks likely to be quarterbacks. But I think it sets the stage for my favorite fit there. So if they are to move back to, let's say, number 4, if there's a shot at Jalen Carter, that'd be my favorite fit for the Bears. If he is able to be around. But if, you end up with one of Anderson and Carter, you're in a good spot if you are Chicago. Speaking of number 4, Mitch, we'll go to the next 3 picks, starting at number 4 with the Indianapolis Colts. I have them taking a quarterback, C.J. Stroud, quarterback from Ohio State, going at number 4 to the Indianapolis Colts. Seattle Seahawks drafting at number 5, pick from the Denver Broncos, and they will take Tyree Wilson, the edge from Texas Tech. One of our players to know before the NFL draft that we've talked about here on the podcast. And then at number 6, the Detroit Lions via the Rams. They will take Brian Brzee, the defensive lineman from Clemson. So those are the next 3 picks there, 4, 5, and 6. Any thoughts on those specifically, Mitch?
I love the pick of Stroud to the Colts. I
Yep.
love the pick. And we had just talked about that last week of how great I thought that fit would be if they bring in a quarterback-friendly coach like a Jim Harbaugh, like a Sean Payton, those quarterback-friendly coach that can really work with a guy that does a lot of things right, but has a lot of things that he needs to work on and is maybe going to be a little bit of a project and is going to have the patience to work with a quarterback like him with so much raw talent. I think CJ Stroud's a great pick for Indianapolis, a great fit. The other two, Tyree Wilson to Seattle. Seattle clearly needs to work on their front four. A great fit for them. And then when you look at number 6, Brian Brzee, another one that is going to be a great fit. Like I said, I've always thought this. You can never have too many good guys in your front seven. Just adding another name like that would be a great addition to any team. So, again, no qualms here.
Yeah, for those not familiar with Brzee, not somebody we talked about a lot on the podcast, may end up on our players to know list by the end of this, but 6'5", 305, interior guy, similar, plays similar position wise to like Jalen Carter, interior, but really dominant run defender, big, quick hands. Hasn't put up a lot of the stats, the numbers that you want to see in college, but in other classes where the defensive line isn't as deep, perhaps he could be a top 5 talent. But I think defensive line very deep this coming season. So we're going to see some guys who would normally be top 5 picks maybe go a little bit farther down. So that's where I sit with Brzee. But I love Wilson. We've talked about him on this podcast before. Very high on Tyree Wilson. So I do love getting him in there top 5 there with Seattle. To wrap up the top 5, Mitch, last 4 picks here. We'll start at number 7 with the Las Vegas Raiders. I have them taking Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback from Penn State, my quarterback 1 in this upcoming draft. At number 8, the Atlanta Falcons take Peter Skoronski, the Northwestern offensive lineman. At number 9, Carolina, my Panthers will take Jordan Addison, the wide receiver from USC. And at number 10, Philadelphia Eagles, that pick coming from New Orleans, they take Miles Murphy, the edge from Clemson. So that's how that top 10 wraps up there. Any thoughts there? Talking about the Raiders, I love Joey Porter. We've discussed him before, and I just think they need secondary so bad that I love them attacking that in the top 10. If they don't go quarterback, I do think they'll consider that, but could they go a veteran route? I think, TBD there and what they do with Carr and how they fill that position. But if they don't go quarterback, I would love to see them address secondary with a guy like Joey Porter. Yeah,
they've needed secondary for 20 years. I mean, they've just been get bad against the pass for so long that they need something. And Joey Porter would absolutely be the best fit for them. You mentioned Peter Skoronski going there at number 8. Honestly, that would be a position where I think the Falcons would be a great spot for the Bears to trade back to number 8 and go get an offensive lineman like Peter Skoronski. I think that'd be a beneficial to both teams, a team that's honestly looking for quarterback. Maybe they could sneak up and get Bryce Young at the 101, while the Bears trade back and get a player like Skoronski. And a similar situation, I don't think the Panthers are really in a position to trade out of the 9th overall pick. I think that that's probably where they're going to stay. But Jordan Addison was another name that crossed my mind as far as wide receivers that are going to be going early. And for a team like Carolina that is going to need to bring in a quarterback talent, needs quarterback. They need someone to throw to and might as well groom a young wide receiver like Jordan Addison. Love that fit there. I mean, your top 10 solid, buddy. I mean, there's just really nothing that I'm super upset about. I mean, there's nothing egregious here. It seems like that these guys have, great fits and where you're taking them right now. Now, obviously that's going to change as we see trades, people trading up, people trading back. That's all going to change. But so far, this top 10 is a solid one. And looking forward to reading that article. Go on the sportshourguys.wordpress.com and check out this article that Dallen's going to be putting up for his one of many, I'm sure, mock draft articles that he'll be putting up.
Yeah, first version of it here with the top 10. And, just speaking quickly on Carolina, obviously they'll be in the mix for quarterback. I don't feel comfortable drafting one here at 9 that's not Stroud or Young. So that's why I didn't go quarterback at the top 10. In this scenario, they go trade for Derek Carr or somebody, they'd have to have gotten somebody else in the building, and now you invest that pick in adding alongside DJ Moore, adding a weapon. I like Addison here. Quentin Johnston is another player that I think could be in play here, the TCU wide receiver, bringing some size, athleticism there. So I do think he would potentially be in play, but that's why I went wide receiver with Carolina. I just think they're in a tough spot with where they're drafting, at least right now. So certainly something to monitor there. But that's the top 10. I do have 18 all mocked out. I won't give it all away yet, but I will tell you, Mitch, that I do have 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 18.
Wow.
So only 2 in the top 10, but I do have 4 quarterbacks being selected in the top 18 right now, based on where it's played out. So we'll see how the playoffs change the order of the draft and how that will look. And again, free agency, once we see quarterback movement solidified, we'll get a better idea of how these teams are looking. But it's always a fun exercise to look ahead. So I wanted to do this top 10 right now. And I appreciate the feedback from you, my friend. I appreciate the feedback from anybody willing to give it. If you're listening live, let us know in the comments. If you're listening on the podcast feed, let us know on the socials as well.
That's right.
That's right. All
That's
right.
All right.
All righty, Mitch. Well, that's going to do it for the campus tour. It is time to take a break and hit a mid-roll. We'll take a quick 2-minute break, hit our mid-roll, and then on the other side, our NFL season recap and our look ahead at the Super Wild Card weekend. A lot of fun ahead on the second half of the podcast. So stick around, and we'll be right back. Thanks for checking out the Sports Hour today. We appreciate you wherever you're listening, but if you haven't already, we recommend you check us out and give us a listen on Anchor.
Anchor allows us to provide the best product to you. You can go support the Sports Hour and become a permanent part of the show, like my saint of a mother, Sammy, and my father, David, did.
You can even leave us voice messages with your thoughts and opinions that we can use on the show. Prove to us that you know better than me and Mitch-Mo.
Moral of the story, people, be more like Sammy and David. Go find us at anchor.fm/the Sports Hour, guys, and become a part of the conversation. What the hell are you waiting for? Welcome back into the second half of the Sports Hour with Mitch-Mo Dallen. Thank you for sticking around. If you've been watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate you. If you're listening to us on the podcast later in the week, we still appreciate you. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Leave us a comment, a rating, a review, all those things, because I know that's what you're doing, because you're a good Samaritan and a good listener, and that's why we appreciate you. We appreciate all of you that tune in for us. Dallen, second half of the podcast. It's time to look back on a season that was. Week 18 ended up last week. Excuse me. It ended up this year. It didn't end up last year.
Feels like a year ago
year.
at this point.
Yeah. And, man, at the beginning of the year, around April, we made some picks. And then we did it again right around preseason. We made some, alterations to those picks. And I'll tell you what, we were right on some things and we were really wrong on some things. And it's time that maybe we take a victory lap. Maybe we eat some crow. But it's time to go back and look at this season and what we got right, what we got wrong. And it's our 2022 NFL season recap. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always good to have a little bit of an accountability. So as we sort of look back at the season as was and how we got to where we are now, the precipice of the NFL playoffs and the contenders that we have, it'll be a good time to look at some of those preseason predictions. So we'll look division by division here and the standings and who's made the playoffs. Let's start, Mitch, in the AFC with the AFC North. And before the season, we differed a bit. We both had Baltimore making the playoffs after missing it the previous season. I had them as a 3 seed and going 13-4. You had them as the 6 seed, 11-6. You did have Cincinnati at 12-5, winning the division as the 3 seed, which you nailed. I, however, had them at 10-7 and missing the playoffs. My thought on that at the time, there was a lot of teams that finished 10-7. They missed out on tiebreakers. It was, really competitive AFC. They'll just miss out. Well, AFC wasn't quite as competitive this year as we expected, right? Denver wasn't a contender. Vegas wasn't a contender. Jets faded as a contender down the stretch. So I think it became a little easier. The path became a little more clear, and both those teams earned playoff spots this year. We both had them with winning records. Okay, I did have Cincinnati at 10-7, even though I had them missing out. They ended up 12-4. So I think we were both pretty close there. That was pretty easy, though. I don't know. I don't think that was a challenging one to predict how this division was going to play out.
No, that didn't really, faze me much. Baltimore finished up at 10-7. So we were, I was in the ballpark there, I guess. Cincinnati had the very unfortunate circumstances not played out. I still think they might have lost that game. So we could have been looking at a 12-5 Bengals team and I would have been dead nuts on, but it feels good to have at least one right. I think the one that we really missed on here though is Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
And I mentioned this last week, I believe. This is absolutely why Mike Tomlin is not only the best coach in the NFL right now, but the best coach of his era. And to take a team that we both had at 5-12, preseason, and take them to a 9-win team, and it's an incredible feat by the Steelers. Just missing out on those playoffs. It's
doing it with a rookie quarterback. Kenny Pickett,
with a rookie quarterback. With all the question marks that they had, it's really, really incredible what the Steelers did to get to 9 wins this year.
Oh yeah, that was definitely the biggest miss we had. As you said, a 4-point swing there. We both had them winning 5. They ended up winning 9. Cleveland, I had 7-10. You had 8-9. They did finish 7-10. So we were right on there with how the Deshaun Watson suspension would affect this team. And really, not even besides that, when they had Watson, they didn't really play that great, right? They had a pretty decent record without him. With him, they didn't really play that great either. So either way, we were pretty spot on there with the Cleveland Browns and the rest of the AFC North there. So Mitch, AFC East, pretty easy here at the top. We both had the Buffalo Bills. 13-4 for me, 14-3 for you. They finished 13-3. We split the difference. Well done there. Winning the division. We both had them as the number 1 seed. They do finish number 2, but pretty close. Other than that, I was the only one that had another playoff team. I did predict Miami would make the playoffs at 10-7. You had them at 10-7 and missing out, like I had Cincinnati, and they do go 9-8. They do make the playoffs, earning that final spot, just sneaking in. So I'll give you a half credit there, like I get, sort of half credit for the Bengals. Right on the type of season they'd have, just didn't put them in the playoffs, and in this case, they end up sneaking in that final spot.
I mean, an all-time collapse by the Dolphins. They started off 8-3. They wound up going 1-7, or 1-5 in their last 6 to get to where they're at now. So, good for them to break the streak of not getting into the playoffs. But dang, what a collapse by them. I mean, tough with the Tua injury. I mean, that's just, they really collapsed once Tua couldn't play. I mean, in the beginning of the season when they were clicking, I mean, they looked dangerous. Like, if it's clicking on all cylinders, like this could be a legit team. And so, to fall off the way that they did, really surprising. But man, it's just a shame the injuries that they had and not being able to sustain that down the stretch. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, and I just checked, I'm not. Tua led the league in passer rating this year. Like he was one of the most efficient passers in the NFL. So it really came down to a very key injury for the Dolphins, and it's tough to go with Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson down the stretch.
Yes.
But yeah, they broke the streak. They're in. So I guess half point to you.
A full point to me, half point to you. I correctly predicted them as the 7 seed, 10-7. You had them 10-7, but they just didn't make it in yours. So that's why I give you that.
You were 10-7 and they were off by a win. But I don't know.
Okay, well, I'll take away your points from Cincinnati and Baltimore then, since you didn't get those.
No, fine. Okay,
right.
fine. Full point for you. Full point for you. Fine.
Mitch, the other 2 teams of this division, we were not very bullish on. New England, surprising us. We thought they'd have a regression year. I mean, they did in some ways, but not nearly as big. We had them going 6-11 each. They ended up going 8-9, missing out of the playoffs, but obviously they're in contention there in that final week. So borderline playoff team. The Jets, I had them 7-10. You had them 6-11. They did end up 7-10. So we were spot on there for the Jets. I feel pretty good about both of those, the way those played out.
Yeah. I mean, the Jets were a team early on where I thought, was like, oh my gosh, we're going to be wrong on the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be wrong on the Jets. They looked really, really good. But they wound up right exactly where we thought they're going to be. I think if they don't lose Breece Hall and Zach Wilson doesn't absolutely fall apart.
Well, Breece Hall, I mean, you bring up a good point. We forget. I mean, he was like best running back in the league for a stretch, right? I mean, as a rookie, he was going to be rookie of the year. Yeah, losing him, we forget what kind of impact they could have had on this team. And 2 extra wins, and all of a sudden they're the 8-8 team in the playoffs instead of Miami or someone else. So that's a huge blow. That's a huge blow in retrospect.
Huge.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I just forget he was on the team. It happened so early in the season. Mitch, AFC South. We both predicted the only playoff team from this division would be Indianapolis. I had the Colts going 12-5, and you had the Colts going 10-7. Obviously, the Colts did not make the playoffs. They didn't come close to that. They went 4-12-1. So big whiffs on our spot. The Jacksonville Jaguars did win this division at 9-8. Our predictions for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I had them at 6-11. You had them at 8-9. So you got close. You weren't brave enough to put them in the playoffs. You didn't go all the way, but you were close, and I'll give you some credit there. You sort of got in the ballpark. You wanted to give them a shot at it. They were in your prediction just 2 games out of the division, sort of right there on the cusp. In this case, in a really weak AFC South, that was enough to sort of get them over the edge, in 2022. But yeah, I mean, credit on you, 8-9, pretty close.
Yeah, I really thought that from them moving on from Urban Meyer, bringing in Doug Peterson, this was going to be a very, very big culture shift for the Jacksonville Jaguars and put Trevor Lawrence in a better position to succeed. And by God, look what happened. Trevor Lawrence was put in a better situation to succeed, and the Jacksonville Jaguars had a better culture there. So, I'm really excited that the Jaguars won this division because it's something new and it's something different and it's fun. This Jaguars team is fun, and I'm glad that they got to where they're at right now. As for the Colts, man, I mean, just things went wrong from week one, and we saw it. We saw it from the very beginning, and I think from week one on, I was just constantly scratching my head going, oh my God, how far off could we have been with this team? And we couldn't have been more far off. I think that this was just a really, really, it was a comedy of errors for the Indianapolis Colts this year. And man, were they bad. And we were
if either of us would have predicted that Jeff Saturday was going to be the coach for the majority of the season, before the season started, we'd have been what are we talking about?
You bring up a good point. You bring up a good point with, could we have ever guessed that Jeff Saturday was going to be the coach? We never saw this coming. I mean, this was a team that was primed to be a 10-win team, and it did not come together. So.
In a weak AFC South, and I think that was one of the biggest things, right? How weak the division was. It was like someone has to emerge, and the Colts will have enough talent to make it work. Obviously, they did not. Jacksonville does. Tennessee finishes 7-10, second in the division. I predicted they would go 7-10. You predicted 8-9 before the season. We were both right on there with the dip for the Tennessee Titans to a below 500 season. Houston, we both predicted they'd go 2-15. They went 3-13-1. So pretty spot on with those two spots for us.
Yeah. I mean, we could all see the writing on the wall as far as aggression for Tennessee goes. So
yeah. And we weren't betting on the Texans, clearly.
Hell no.
Mitch, AFC West, we both did not have the Chiefs winning this division. Mitch, I had the Chiefs going 13-4 and winning this division. You had the Chargers going 13-4 and winning this division. We both also had the other team making the playoffs. So we both had Chiefs and Chargers in the playoffs, which was correct. But I had Kansas City as division winner. You had LA as division winner. I also had Denver in the playoffs at 11-6 at the 5 seed. You had Las Vegas in the playoffs at 11-6 at the 7 seed. Yeah, this did not play out at all what we predicted. I had all 4 teams over 500. And the Raiders going 10-7. You had Broncos going 8-9. So I'll give you credit here. You at least had the Broncos under 500, Mitch. You at least saw something. Now, you didn't predict 5-12. I would have laughed you off the stage if you did that in the preseason. But looks well done there.
In hindsight, we should have seen it coming.
Yeah,
we should have seen it coming with the AFC West. There was just something. It seemed too good to be true.
Yep.
And there was something that had to go wrong. I mean, the Raiders hit a really bad stretch there. They got hot there for a minute and then they fell off again. And then the Broncos were just bad all year. They were just bad all year. It was the equivalent of a trap game. We should have seen it coming and it bit us in the ass, but at least we got the 2 playoff teams right? At least we got 2 of the playoff teams right. So.
Well, those are easy. We each predicted 3 playoff teams from this division. So, I mean, we had good odds there. Yeah, I mean, 13,
I do have to say, by the way, I lost one of my things on the hill.
Oh, did you?
I said 4 AFC West teams would be in the playoffs, and here we are. Probably my
Only
boldest
2.
take of 2022 was 4 AFC West teams, and here we are.
Wow.
I knew it was bold. But here we are.
It's what the hill is for. It's for bold takes only. You don't go on the hill with something sheepish. That's not what it's about. So
no, you don't.
Respect the hustle there. But yeah, 13 and 12 wins respectively. We predicted for Kansas City. They end up 14-3. Los Angeles ends up 10-7. I had them predicted 10-7. You had them at 13-4. We both had Vegas with at least 10 wins, and obviously they did not at 6-11. And then Denver finished the season 5-12, so not anywhere close to our predictions. So tough call in the AFC West, but yeah, as you said, juggernaut, something was going to give. In this case, it was a couple teams really falling off. Let's jump to the NFC, Mitch, with the NFC. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just have to say, like, did we learn a lesson with the AFC West when there's so many seemingly juggernauts in a division that something has to give?
Something's going to
Like,
go wrong for somebody.
Something's going to
Yeah.
go wrong for someone. I mean, all four seemed like just really good teams. Like, something has to give, I think, in those situations. And if there's any way I could take, like, a learning lesson I could take away from anything this year, it's the AFC West. And just, hey, you can't put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to a division when it seems so stacked.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And we have to remember these teams play their division 6 times a year. So that's going to matter down the stretch. If you're splitting your division games, that's 3 losses a season. And, and then all of a sudden you add some interconference and out of conference losses and you're 6, 7, 8 losses deep. And now all of a sudden no one's 12-5 and you're like, well, this division not that good. Well, no, they just beat up on each other. Right. So I do think that, it's something to be taken into consideration. I think that's a good point there, Mitch. Let's jump over to the NFC and let's start with the NFC North. We both predicted Green Bay would win this division. I had them at 12-5 in the 3 seed. You had 11-6 in the 4 seed. Obviously, Green Bay not only does not win the division, but misses the playoffs at 8-9. The division winner, though, the Minnesota Vikings, who we both predicted to make the playoffs at 10-7 in the wild card. But obviously, Minnesota pulls off the division with a 13-4 record. So big improvement, 3-game swing there for Minnesota. We did see the playoffs, but did not see them winning the division, and definitely not winning the division by 4 games.
Definitely one of the most interesting, confusing, exciting divisions in football. Clearly the Bears were out of it from a very early on stage, right? They lost their last 10 games of the year. So like clearly they're not going to be in that conversation, but the excitement of the Lions, who I said was going to be one of our NBA League Pass teams, have to tune in and watch the Lions. Clearly they were exciting all year long.
Yep.
The Packers, what a collapse. What a collapse. Just never seemed to get on the same page. But the Vikings were clearly the most confusing team out of this division by a long shot, outscored on the course of the season, and still won 13 games.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens. I'm not sure how that happens, but it did. The only team in this division to score more than their opponents were the 9-8 Lions, and they're not even in the playoffs. So I have no idea how this happens. Very confusing, very interesting division. I think this will be one of those years that we look at this division and we go to break it down in years to come of how you can never just judge a book by its cover and see, what the on-field product brings you. You have to take a deeper dive and take a look at what these teams do statistically and what the trends tell you. It will definitely speak volumes about what the team is actually doing.
Yeah, we were pretty close on the bottom 2 teams in this division, Mitch. Detroit went 9-8. You had them at 8-9. I had them at 7-10. We saw that step in the next direction, right? From a 3-13-1 season the year before to something else. Now, obviously, we didn't have them in the playoffs. We didn't have them over 500. They reached a little higher than we even expected, but we were sort of in that right vein there. I think we had the right idea. Obviously, Bears, I had them at 5-12. You had them at 6-11. They go 3-14. So bad season for the Bears. But we were sort of on with the Lions there, being sneaky competitive, but not like we could potentially go to the playoffs in week 18 competitive. I didn't see that.
No, I think I'd maybe mentioned them as like a sleeper playoff team, but nothing more than that. I never thought they'd be in contention in week 18. Never. So yeah,
no way. NFC East, Mitch, we both had the Eagles winning this division. You had them as the 2 seed at 13-4. I had them as the 4 seed at 11-6. They do win the NFC East at 14-3, earning the number 1 seed in the NFC. So you were pretty close there. Well done calling the Eagles. We also had Dallas going to the playoffs. We both had the Cowboys in. I had them at 10-7 in the 6 seed. You had them 9-8. And the 7 seed, they go 12-5 and earn the 5 seed. So we'll start with those 2 there. We were spot on, and we were spot on with the order. Eagles number 1 in this division, and then number 2 is the Cowboys. And they're going to be, in this case, you saw a pretty big gap, right? You had 13-4 Philly to 9-8 Dallas. I had them separated by a game. I thought it would be close down the stretch, and it was just a game separated. There was a chance even in week 18 that the Cowboys could potentially flip the division. So those two teams sort of back and forth, trailing in that order all season, but those were definitely the two at the top.
Yeah, no, I this was definitely closer than what I thought it was going to be. I definitely fell into the trend. It fell victim to the trend monster of December football for the Cowboys, and to see that collapse that they usually find in December, and they didn't. They played well in the month of December, so I fell victim to that. But good to feel that, good feeling that we got them both in, and we both got it right there.
Yeah.
Maybe if the records were just a little bit off.
Right. Well, the Eagles, and you correctly predicted the Eagles being dominant this year in the NFC, and sure enough, 14-3 there in the number 1 seed. So that was right on. As far as the other two, obviously we were both very off on the Giants. This was by far my biggest whiff. Actually, maybe the Rams were the biggest whiff for me. We'll get to them later, but New York, I had them at 3-14. You had 6-11 for the Giants for the first year with Brian Daboll, and they end up 9-7-1, earning the 6th seed in the playoffs. So clearly, we did not see that come in. Washington, we both had them at 6-11. They go 8-1. So an improvement there. But they slipped down the stretch. Could have had a shot at the playoffs. Really had they were in the driver's seat for that 7 seed with the tie, and fell off down the stretch for the Commanders. But yeah, clearly we missed on the Giants. Big whiffs there.
I think we really underestimated what Brian Daboll could do as a head coach. I think that was a really, really big underestimation.
I don't know if we underestimated. I think we properly estimated for people who have no knowledge of what Brian Daboll would do as a head coach. Because one, we never seen it, and we don't really know the guy personally. So, it is hard to predict which one of these first-year coaches is going to break out, right? We had high expectations for Josh McDaniels and Nathaniel Hackett as first-year head coaches. We had those teams as playoff teams, double-digit win teams. We didn't have the same expectations for a first-year coach like Brian Daboll, and yet that's, he's one of the ones that has success, not somebody else. It is, I'm curious to maybe look back on who becomes right in those, what's wrong, and why that is, but because clearly it's something we didn't see. But yeah, an incredible year for the Giants, no doubt.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mitch, NFC South. This one's pretty easy. We both had Tampa winning this division, obviously with a much better record than they did. I had them as the 2 seed at 13-4. You had them as the 3 seed at 12-5. They went 8-9, but they do win the division. So we correctly predicted Tampa there. I want to kind of give ourselves a half point there because we were like 4 or 5 games off the win record, but we did predict the division win. So we got to get some credit there. Everything else, though, Mitch, I don't know. Let's start there. Tampa, is there any surprise here? The way that the season went, I don't know. This is going to be Tampa.
I was going to, if you didn't pass it off, I was going to ask, can we just start with Tampa Bay? Because
I was looking at the rest okay, all right. Yeah.
Let's start simple here. Look, what reason did we have to not believe in Tom Brady at this point? We didn't.
Right. Exactly.
At that point, we didn't have any reason to not believe in Tom Brady, that he could go get them to a 12-win season. Clearly, things have changed, right? Yep. I know he set the record for most completed passes in the season. Well, yeah, it's because he threw the ball like 730 times.
Almost 800 times. Yeah.
His volume was so unreal. Like, of course he's going to break that record. But clearly this team is not in a good spot. They kind of won the division because they were the least crappy team. Like, that's kind of the division. That's kind of the spot they were in. The Bucks winning, that's fine. You go with 7-10 down the road for the rest of the division.
Right.
And it's hard not to lose a division with Tom Brady as your quarterback and when the rest of the teams are 7-10. So I guess
when
just
the rest
give it
of
up
the
to
teams
the Bucks.
Are starting Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, Desmond Ritter,
Baker Mayfield for a time.
Those are the starting quarterbacks you're playing against in your division. So yeah, I hope Tom Brady could freaking pull that off. And they did it by the skin of their teeth. They did.
Can we definitively say the NFC South, even though Tom Brady's in that division, was the worst quarterback division in the entire league?
Oh, I think, I'd love to look at the numbers to get it for sure, but I could probably feel comfortable saying that right now because I mean,
I feel like that. Yeah,
it'd be hard pressed to find another division that bad. Just bad, situations all around. And again, with how weak the NFC was coming into the season, we saw it, right? There was a power vacuum. There was opportunities for someone to emerge, but it chalked up the Green Bay Packers, chalked up Tampa Bay because, well, someone's going to win the games and they've done it. So,
someone
they'll
has
do it
to
again. And in this case, it wasn't. Minnesota emerged, right? Tampa Bay ends up winning 8 games, still ends up winning the division. Mitch, let's talk about some of these other teams. New Orleans, we both had them going 8-9 and finishing second in the division. They do go 7-10, finish third. So right there, I think that's pretty fair for the Saints. I thought they'd be kind of right there, not quite 500, but maybe borderline. I do want to get some credit though for my Carolina prediction because I picked them to go 8-9 this season. You picked 5-12. I thought that they would be more competitive than sucky. Not like tanking bottom level teams, but sneaky competitive, hanging around games. And that's what they did, especially down the stretch of this season with Steve Wilkes as the interim head coach. So I'm one game off there on my prediction for Carolina, but I'm feeling very good about that. I'm feeling very good about the end result for Carolina. It was very bad for some time this season, but it turned out very well for them, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it did. I think this is best case scenario for Carolina, other than getting, getting a top 5 pick,
Right.
So
yeah.
At least they show some promise. I do want to point something out about the Saints and how close actually we were to being not far off that 8-9 projection that we had. I know we were only a game off with them going 7-10. They lost 4 one-score games this year, which means if you split 2 of those, so let's say they go 500 in those one-score games, we're looking at a 9-8 team, and we're right there, and they're in that division winner conversation.
Yeah.
So we weren't that far off on the Saints. I feel like this is a team that's got a lot of question marks, but is weirdly in the right direction.
Yeah.
Weirdly in the right direction.
Atlanta, we were obviously very low in Atlanta, 3 wins, 2 wins respectively. They turned out much better, 7-10. Good follow-up season for Arthur Smith there. We'll see how they build upon that moving forward. Mitch, final division, NFC West. We both had the Rams repeating. NFC West champions here for the Rams, 14 wins for me, number 1 seed, 13 wins for you, number 1 seed. These are the defending Super Bowl champs. I'm not going to, apologize for my take here. But clearly the season did not go well for the Rams as they finished 5-12, third in the NFC West. So they did not make the playoffs. The team that did win the division, though, and the team that we did have making the playoffs is the San Francisco 49ers. You had them as the 5 seed at 10-7. I had them as the 7 seed at 9-8. And although this was a different scenario with which we picked this record, right? There was a Jimmy G and a Trey Lance mixed into that. It wasn't a Brock Purdy, I'll tell you that. But despite all that, the Niners actually win this division and win it at a 13-4 record, better than they had last year. Incredible season for San Francisco. So we did correctly pick the Niners to make the playoffs, but obviously didn't see this coming, didn't see 13 wins. Crazy season the Niners have had.
A 13-win season with 3 different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Unprecedented.
Unprecedented. Yeah, exactly. They always found a way to win. And again, I cannot give enough credit to D'Amico Ryans and that San Francisco 49ers defense. Just the work that they put in to keep themselves in games, even when the offense wasn't clicking. Elite. Just an elite unit, an elite defensive coordinator, an elite defensive mind. D'Amico Ryans and that San Francisco 49ers defense is just next level. It's head and shoulders above everyone else right now.
Yeah, no doubt. Truly, that's just a lot of credit to that coaching staff and the talent that they're able, the play that they're able to get out of the guys on that roster. Really, really impressive stuff. Mitch, one of our biggest whiffs, Seattle. I had them at 3-14. He had them at 2-15. They go 9-8. They make the playoffs in the wild card as the 7th seed. A lot of credit goes to Seattle there, but obviously we didn't see the Geno Smith success. We didn't see This team being competent on defense at all, anywhere close, and they really were, especially in the beginning half of the season, really good on defense. And the rookies that they had really ball out in high levels on offensive defense. I mean, a lot of this was hard to see coming, but big whiff on Seattle. The other one, Arizona, went 4-13. We had them missing the playoffs. We didn't see a playoff repeat for Arizona. We actually had them both under 500. I had them 8-9. You had 7-10. So we thought a little more competitive than obviously the bottom out that we saw from the Cardinals. But those are the final two there.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle, but I feel like I owe an apology to your parents for how low on Seattle we were. Sorry, Dennis and Christine. The Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith found a way to get it done. So, I feel like we have this conversation year in and year out about the Seahawks. Every time we think that this is the year that they fall off the table, they just don't.
Well, last year it finally was. Last year it finally was. It was like, here we go. The end is near. The end has come. They went 7-10. Russ is gone. It finally happened, and then
here we are,
right back to it.
Yep. And then with Arizona, it was just an implode. It was an implosion. Like they definitely just self imploded. And it's time for a reset. But yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, that's fascinating stuff. That's our season recap, our picks recap. We did pretty good for the most part. Got some right, got some wrong, as we always do, but we saw some of this coming. The Detroit, more success from Detroit. We had an eye on that. We had an eye on some of these things, and fun to see where our brains were 4 or 5 months ago, and sort of how this is all played out here come January.
I definitely just take more pride in how much I was right on some things than how just ugly wrong I was on some things. So,
I mean, I
had that doesn't matter. I was really right on this, so I got that one right. But
I had like an entire 9 points, a 9-win swing on the Rams going 14-3 and where they actually ended up. So yeah, definitely some big whiffs there, but that's how it goes. Yeah. Can't play the game without taking risks. That's what we're out here doing, buddy. Taking risks. Taking chances, living life on the edge. Speaking of that, Mitch, we're gonna put our name on some picks, NFL award picks. We're gonna make our selections for NFL awards: MVP, Offensive Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Coach of the Year. As we do this, though, we will also look back at our preseason picks, who we thought would win these awards, and where we sit now. So this will be a fun little exercise. But Mitch, let's start with the MVP. And we've been doing our MVP watch, our MVP race last couple weeks, tracking who we thought should be the MVP at the end of the season. Last week, Patrick Mahomes was the number 1, Hurts number 2, Burrow number 3. And I'll ask you first, has that changed for you? Where do you sit, and who's your MVP pick for the 2022 NFL season?
I know what my heart wants to say.
Yes.
I know what my heart wants to say.
That it does.
But I can't. I can't say him. My heart wants to say Jalen Hurts.
I love Hurts, Mitch.
I love Jalen Hurts. God, he's so good. And the years that the numbers that he put up, I mean, he completed 66.5% of his passes, 3,700 yards, 22-6 interception or touchdown to interception ratio. Ran the ball exceptionally well, 13 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Second amongst all players.
Yeah, only behind Jamal Williams, right? The Lions running back in touchdowns. So
I have to give it to Patrick Mahomes, though. And it's purely based off of he played a full season. He put up comparable numbers. Maybe his legs didn't do the same things, but his arm made up for it. I got to go Patty.
Yep.
I got to go Patty Mahomes in this situation.
Yeah, I'm going to go Mahomes too, Mitch. Mahomes is the pick. 14-3 record this season, completing 67% of his passes. Number 1 in passing yards with 5,250 yards. Number 1 in passing touchdowns, 41 touchdowns. 12 interceptions on the season, but he was 7th in completion percentage, 3rd in pass attempts with almost 650 pass attempts. Averaged 8.1 yards per pass attempt, which was one of the best in the league. Actually, 2nd In fact, I think he was only behind Tua in yards per attempt. So Mahomes was explosive. He was great. And listen, he lost Tyreek Hill. He lost one of the most explosive weapons in the league this offseason. They traded him away. And yeah, they still have Travis Kelce and they have Andy Reid and they have all this great infrastructure. But for Mahomes to do this with what he's doing it with is even more impressive to me. And I think Mahomes, if Hurts plays a game or two, he doesn't get injured, can hold on. I think he wins it. And he certainly looked like the favorite for a long time. But when it comes down to it, I think in the end, it's Patrick Mahomes.
I'll tell you what, Josh Allen was about 5 fewer picks away from being the MVP here.
Well, that's a lot, Mitch. I mean, 5 fewer picks is quite a bit.
But I mean, think about it. It's really not, though. Like,
I mean, he threw 14. So, I mean,
over the course of the season, well, okay, so he throws 33%.
It's like a third of them.
He throws 33% fewer picks. He's right there. But
it's just too inefficient this year. And that's unfortunate for Josh Allen, who we both predicted. That was our pick before the season. We both picked Josh Allen as the MVP. We thought this was Buffalo's year. He would have a year. And listen, he's in this mix. He's top 4 for both of us. He's 4th for me. But, 63% completion percentage, which is far behind Burrow, Hurts, and Mahomes. 35 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. So, similar touchdown numbers, but higher interceptions. He obviously has some great rushing numbers, 762 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. And that's
kind of where I was getting at. Is like if he just passed more efficiently, he'd been in the same conversation as Jalen
Exactly.
Hurts.
And those are great, but it's just the inefficiency for Allen, especially this year, really hurt him in that sense. So tough to see, but we both picked Mahomes. Again, Allen was the preseason pick. We had some sleeper picks. My sleeper pick was Russell Wilson. Yours was Matthew Stafford. So
yikes. Yikes.
Big
That's a bad one.
Wow. But we're gonna move on to things that aren't misses and go offensive player of the year, Mitch. And this one is easy for me, and I actually predicted it before the season, so I want to give myself a little pat on the back here. But Justin Jefferson, offensive player of the year. We're obviously going non-quarterback here, but that's my pick for offensive player of the year, and that was my prediction headed into this season that Justin Jefferson would win this award. I thought in this offense with Kevin O'Connell coming from LA, he would have a Cooper Kupp-esque role, Cooper Kupp-esque targets, focal point in the offense, and 128 receptions, 1,809 yards, 8 touchdowns. I'd say, yeah, he got close to that level. He was on a record-setting pace at a certain point in this season. So leads the league in both receptions and receiving yards there. I think Justin Jefferson is the best skill player outside of quarterback on offense. So he's my pick for offensive player of the year.
Yeah, he's mine too. I mean, it's not even close. Like if you're going non-quarterback, it's not even close. So like, he was on a record-setting pace just up until like a couple weeks ago. He was definitely going to set a record had he kept pace, and of course it would have been like they say, a quote unquote record pace. But Justin Jefferson, clearly the offensive player of the year.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even fall near to what I had, as my preseason predictions.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor, right?
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor and Deebo Samuel as an honorable mention. So
yes. Yeah. That one's tough. Yeah. I had Austin Eckler, I believe is my honorable mention. And, I think as far as other names competing with Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill had a really good season. He was our mid-season pick for offensive player of the year, the pace he was on at that point, but 119 receptions, 1,710 yards and 7 touchdowns. So about 9 less receptions, 100 less yards than Justin Jefferson, 1 less touchdown. So it's sort of right there. If you went running back, you're talking Josh Jacobs, who led the league, rushing yards, 1,600 rushing yards. Also had the most scrimmage yards among all players, 2,053 scrimmage yards if you combine his receiving yards and rushing yards. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really Justin Jefferson here. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, 100%.
Defensive player of the year, though, Mitch, maybe a different conversation where you go in defensive player of the year.
I am a firm believer that the defensive player of the year is the sacks award, essentially. And that seems to be the way that it's gone in multiple years, the last few years at least. I'm going Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa from San Francisco. I mean, 18 and a half sacks. This guy's just been an integral part of that defense. Finally, a full healthy season. This guy has finally put a full healthy one together, and you could see just the impact that he brings to the field week in and week out when he stays healthy. And Nick Bosa is kind of the runaway one for me, at least as far as defensive player of the year goes.
I think that's pretty fair at this point. He's really, run away with this award, if you will. As you said, 18.5 sacks, 48 QB hits, Mitch. That's 13 more than the next player. The next player's Max Crosby with 35. So 13
and he would be probably second in that one. Yeah.
Yeah. 13 more QB hits than the second place player on as far as that goes for Nick Bosa. So really an incredible season for him. I think he's definitely there. A few other names I thought of, I want to mention in consideration. I think Chris Jones had a really underrated season, came on down the stretch, 15.5 sacks for Chris Jones, 44 tackles, 4 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery for the defensive lineman from the Chiefs. And then Minkah Fitzpatrick, 96 tackles, 11 passes deflected, and 6 for the safety from Pittsburgh. Not a type of player that's going to win the award. You don't really give the award to a guy like that unless he has 8+ interceptions and a bunch of sacks and whatever. But I thought Mink had a really good year. Wanted to give him some credit here. But I mean, it's a Nick Bosa's award for sure.
Yeah, and just a quick, name I want to mention too, as well as he was my mid-season pick, was Matthew Judon.
Oh yeah,
from New England.
Ended up with
15.5 sacks.
Right.
The guy had a hot start, slowed down in the second half, but had a really hot start. And still winds up tied for 4th in sacks with the aforementioned Chris Jones. So a great year from him as well.
Yeah, my preseason pick was I believe Myles Garrett. That was my pick for defensive player of the year, was TJ Watt. Both pretty good picks there. My honorable mention though was Nick Bosa, so I'll take a little credit there. I did my sleeper, honorable mention was Nick Bosa. Yours was Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons also had a very good year. I think 13.5 sacks. Obviously he's a dynamic player, but I think this is going to be Nick Bosa pretty easy down the stretch. Mitch, offensive rookie of the year. Let's go offensive rookie of the year. This is kind of an interesting award, and I'm curious where we'll both go here. So I'll let you go first. I'm going to let you take it first. Who did you pick for rookie of the year? Offensive rookie of the year.
So I'm between two, really. And it's how important were they to their offenses? Because I feel like their output was pretty similar given their positions. But like, how important were they to their offenses? I'm going to go Ken Walker.
Okay.
I'm going to go Ken Walker here. He's 1,000-yard rusher.
Lay out the case.
1,100 or 1,000-yard rusher. 22 or 1,200 total yards, 9 touchdowns. This guy was averaged at 4 yards per carry on 4.5 yards per carry over the course of the year. I think that without the contribution to Ken Walker, Geno Smith does not see the same sort of success. And though we want to talk about, I'll just say who was on my mind for the second one is Garrett Wilson, and how much he meant to that pass game of the Jets. I think that Kenneth Walker really freed his quarterback up more to make more plays, and Geno Smith had better success because of Ken Walker's presence. So I have to go Kenneth Walker here for offensive rookie of the year.
I love the pick, Mitch. I think it's obviously a very good pick. He was dynamic, and I think among running backs, right? I want to give a shout out to my guy Tyler Algier here, who really made a late push for this, and has comparative stats to Walker. The biggest problem for Algier is he has 15 less yards, but 6 less touchdowns. 9 rushing touchdowns for Ken Walker, just 3 for Algier. So when you're talking 9 rushing touchdowns, 9 touchdowns on the season is impact. That's scoring points. And you top that with 1,000 yards rushing, and you have a really good case for Ken Walker. But I will go Garrett Wilson here for offensive rookie of the year. And I'm between those two guys, and there's very good cases for both of them. You laid out a very strong case for Ken Walker, but you look at that Jets passing offense, and the only thing that they had going was Garrett Wilson, and he carried that team as a rookie at times, carried that team in a way that not many rookies did this season. And especially in that week 18 game, week 17, they are just targeting him every play. And he is making catches when they need it, showing that alpha ability. And nobody on offense among rookies this year, to me, showed that more than Garrett Wilson. Chris Olave had a great season. Drake London had a very solid season. I mean, a lot of these guys had very good seasons, but no one showed that superstar potential, that breakout, best player at your position type potential in more than Garrett Wilson did for me. 83 receptions, 1,100 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's why he's my pick.
I was just going to say, too, like, you know, you look at that last drive when the Jets are trying to get that win and trying to get into the playoffs. Who did they target? Like 4 out of the last 5 plays? Garrett Wilson. So, like, you know, there was definitely he definitely had a super impactful role on that Jets offense. So I totally get the Garrett Wilson pick too. That was like I said, it was between those two. So
yeah, defensive rookie of the year, Mitch. I'm sticking in New York, and I'm going to go with another Jet. I'm going Sauce Gardner for defensive rookie of the year for me. Sauce emerging as clearly one of the best cornerbacks in the league, period. Like, not just rookies, not just young corners in the league. League leading 20 passes deflected, 2 INT, 75 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Like, his interception numbers aren't going to be as high because he's not getting targeted like other guys because they know better. It was just like it was in college. He didn't have stats in college. Why? Because nobody threw the ball at him because you didn't do it because it was a bad idea. So I think Sauce is legit. I could talk about a number of other guys. I want to hear your thoughts. We can get some of the other names potentially, but in the end, I just had to give it to Sauce.
Well, you know, that's my guy.
He is your guy, so
that's my guy, Sauce Gardner, and of course, I'm going to pick him for defensive.
Okay, good.
He led the NFL in 20 passes defended in his rookie year. Quarterbacks only threw 53.1% on a completion percentage against him, and only had a 61.2% quarterback rating when targeting a guy that he was covering. And wide receivers only averaged 5.1 yards per target when being covered by him. So, I mean, this guy is he's a Pro Bowler. He's clearly the defensive rookie of the year. And if he doesn't win this one, I will riot. I will start a riot. And justice for Sauce is basically what that thing will be called. So, I mean, clearly,
fair enough.
Defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I love Sauce. I think he is the rookie of the year, but I do think there are a couple players who have a really, really strong case. First off, most notably Tariq Woolen, right? The cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks, who's also a Pro Bowler. 6 interceptions, 15 passes deflected, 63 tackles, 3 fumble recoveries, and a touchdown. I mean, Tariq Woolen emerging as a young Richard Sherman there in the Northwest. Really just an incredible story and what he's been able to do as a 5th-round pick. Truly remarkable. But I want to shine some light, Mitch, on one of my favorite players headed into the draft last year. A guy I was caping for, one of my players to know, a guy I was telling you he's going to be good, Jalen Petrie. Petrie, the corner safety hybrid player from Baylor, ends up with the Houston Texans, has 5 interceptions, just one behind Tariq Woolen, 8 passes deflected, 147 tackles, Mitch. 147 tackles, most among all defensive backs, not just rookie defensive backs, all defensive backs in the league. Most tackles in the league among defensive backs, fumble recovery, sack, and 5 TFLs. This is a guy that plays in the box. He plays nickel. He's not, he is a hybrid sort of player, and he showed it in year 1, doing everything. Tackles for loss, INTs, just straight tackles, pass deflected. I mean, Petrie did everything. I thought he had a really, really special season. So I just wanted to give him a shout out here. I don't think he deserves to win it per se over Sauce or Tariq, but really special season, I thought.
Can I give a shout out too as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For young James Houston.
Oh yes.
James Houston from Detroit. He didn't make his debut until Thanksgiving. And still recorded 8 sacks, 11 quarterback hits, and a forced fumble. Had a 3-sack performance against my Bears in Week 17, and did this all while averaging only 18 snaps per game. I mean, this guy he was the numbers were there. Of course, the volume isn't there, and so he's not going to win it. But I do want to give a shout out to James Houston and kind of the late push that he made with his statistical anomalies that he put up since Thanksgiving. So I do want to give James Houston a quick shout. The Jackson State product.
Yes. No, I think that's great. And his teammate, Aiden Hutchinson, one of the probably the favorite, right? I think that was, I think it was my pick heading into the season. I did pick Aiden Hutchinson win Defensive Rookie of the Year. You picked Trayvon Walker, though your honorable mention was Sauce. So well done there. You did pick Sauce as the honorable mention. I had Kyer Elam. But Aiden Hutchinson ended up with 9.5 sacks. So pretty solid season, especially that final game. I mean, that last game against Green Bay, man, Hutchinson was really, really good. And that's exactly what you want to see at the end of the season for a rookie. Okay, now we're going to see more of that next year in year 2. Really develop yourself as a top tier edge rusher. That's great. But yeah, good shout out there for Houston. Mitch, Coach of the Year. And I'll go first here. This was my preseason pick. Felt very good about it back then. Still feel good about it now. I'm going Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is my pick for Coach of the Year. First year head coach with Minnesota. And to turn that team from 8-9 and in a really bad spot with the culture, Mike Zimmer clearly needed a new direction, a refresh, and to turn that refresh into 13 wins. And I know the point differential isn't great, but like, you won games. They won games. They found ways to win. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. If you're the head coach, that's your job, is to win games. So he did it. And for a first year coach, nobody was better. So I'm going to give it to Kevin O'Connell.
I think that's a honorable pick. I disagree.
Thanks.
I disagree. I'm going with the guy that I had as an honorable mention in my preseason. I'm going Nick Sirianni. He led one of the most dominant teams in the NFL the entire year. And a team that, a lot of people weren't really necessarily thinking we're going to be that good. And he just turned them around and said, hey, yeah, we are that good. I have to give it to Nick Sirianni. I do want to give a special shout out, though, to Dan Campbell. And I think he should very clearly be in consideration for turning this Detroit Lions team around. Not only is he a absolute gem and national treasure to watch on the sideline week in and week out because of his excitement and enthusiasm for the game, but has done a great job turning this Detroit Lions organization around. So I'm giving it to Nick Sirianni, but I want an honorable mention to Dan Campbell as well.
Yeah. No, I think Dan Campbell is great. I think Brian Daboll obviously will deserve some mention and conversation in this. I think Doug Peterson will also deserve some conversation and mention in this. All those guys, really did a fantastic job. I think Sirianni is a good pick. I will be interested to see how the voting goes for him, though, because they did make the playoffs last year, even though it was like 9-8, and they didn't obviously have high expectations and didn't really do anything in that opening game against the Bucs. But I wonder how people will view that progression comparative to some of those guys that we mentioned, who, the Detroit Lions won 3 games last year, and the New York Giants, we all expected to win 3 games this year. And, those sort of turnarounds, how that'll stack up. But love Sirianni, obviously, number 1 seed in the NFC for a reason. That's a good pick. And your, honorable mention before the season. So not so bad, not so bad. That's going to do it for our award pick. That was very fun, making those picks and looking back at what we did before the season. But we got to finish up the podcast here with our Super Wildcard Weekend preview and look ahead at the 6 matchups we have for this weekend. We're going to get a little music here, a little of our quick picks music. We're not doing quick picks, but gotta have the music for fun. Right?
That's right. That's right. Can we kick it off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, all right. Saturday, we're going to kick off with the first game of the day. We have the 7 seed Seattle Seahawks. They are leaving the Emerald City to head down to the City by the Bay and take on the San Francisco 49ers. I have a hard time believing, Dallen, that this is a game that the Niners could blow now. Coming on, they're riding that 10-game win streak. Seattle's had put together a great year, far better than we could have ever expected. Right now, the line set at -9.5 in favor of San Francisco. Over/under set at 42.5. Give me the under, and I'm going to take San Francisco to cover because I want to rock and roll all night and Purdy every day. Give me the San Francisco 49ers and a rout over the Seattle Seahawks.
Man, that was pretty good.
It was corny.
And Purdy every day. And Purdy every day. I love that.
Right. It's Purdy time, baby.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, it's a big line, -9.5 for San Francisco at home, but they just owned the Seahawks, right? This year, they handled them in these first two previous matchups. One just a few weeks ago. Can Seattle right the ship that quickly against a team that's had your number this year to win this playoff matchup on the road? I just think it's a tough task for Seattle. I'm not going to say San Francisco covers here. San Francisco will not cover the 9.5 number. It won't be a 10-point victory. Seattle will keep it close. I'll take the under, though. It will be a defensive matchup. So under 42.5, but I will pick the Niners to win this game. Less than 9.5, though. Less than 9.5. Okay. That's the first game on Saturday. Mitch, the final game on Saturday, the Los Angeles Chargers are leaving the sunny state of California, and they're headed for the playoffs to the swamps of Jacksonville. Yeah! So ready. They're hosting, Mitch. 10-7 Chargers, 9-8 Jags. Chargers favored -2 in this game, over under 47.5. I said this last week on the podcast. This was my bold prediction coming out of the week. Both AFC and NFC South champs would win in wild card weekend. I said it a week ago, and I'm not shaken from it now. Give me the Jags. Give me Jacksonville. Give me Duval.
I love that pick. I'm going to take the under in this one. I'm going to take the under barely, too.
I'm taking over. I'm taking over.
I'm taking like 45, 46 points. I don't think they covered the 47.5, but I will take Jacksonville.
Let's go.
+2 to get it done in the swamps of Jacksonville. Give me the Jags getting it done over the Chargers. I just don't have the confidence in Brandon Staley to get it done on the road in his first playoff appearance. I don't have that confidence. Doug Peterson's been here before. I think that riding the hot hand with the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence is the right move. Give me the Jags +2.5 to cover here. I like the Jags in this one. Sunday football. We're kicking off with the number 7 seed, Miami Dolphins. They're headed up to upstate New York to take on the Buffalo Bills. Right now, the Bills favored -13, over/under set at 43.5. Give me the over. I like the over in this one. Lots of scoring. I'm not going to say Buffalo's going to cover. But what I will say is that no one, and I mean no one, circles the wagons quite like the Buffalo Bills. Give me the Bills at home. Take the over. Don't take the line. Screw the points. Take them outright. Take the money line and the over. Bills at home.
Yeah, number 2 seed Buffalo, number 7 seed Miami. No Tua Tagovailoa in this game. That was announced today, Wednesday, January 11th. So presumably Skylar Thompson. I don't know the status of Teddy Bridgewater. I don't even know if he's available at all. I don't really know. But either way, bad spot for Miami coming into this game. Not ready to face this Buffalo team coming off the DeMar Hamlin tragedy and now resurgence, the miracle, the story, the emotion, the passion, the energy. It will not be enough. Mitch, take the over, and I'm taking Buffalo -13. They'll win this game by 17-20. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think Buffalo's going to put it on them on Sunday. It'll be a rough one. Mitch, following that game, the G-Men, New York Giants, number 6 seed. They're headed to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, number 3 seed, 13-4. Vikings favored -3 in this game, over under set at 48. Give me the under slightly. I think this is really close, right? 48's a good number here. Give me the under. Give me Minnesota to cover, though. Minnesota covers the 3. I take Vikings at home. I know they've been up and down this year, but I think they'll survive this one against the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, this might be game of the weekend. I really like this matchup. Ooh. I think it's a very, very, very tight matchup. I'm going to take the under with you, and I'm going to go skull. No! Oh, no! Give me the G-Men +3 to get it done. Oh. I like the Giants in this one over the Vikings. Give me the G-Men.
Wow. Big Brian Dable fan over here. Okay. Love it.
Last game on Sunday. We got the 6 seed Baltimore Ravens there, headed over to the home of some Skyline Chili to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals right now -8.5, over under set at 40.5. Give me the over. I like the over here because I think the Bengals get it done by 17 in this one.
Ooh,
give me the Bengals without no Lamar Jackson. It's going to be tough for the Bengals to counter offensively, or it's going to be tough for the Ravens, to counter offensively. I like the Bengals in this one in a 38-14 effort. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to get this one done.
Yeah, I mean, seemingly not announced officially yet as of today as we're recording this, but Lamar does not look like he's going to play at all. Tyler Huntley looks questionable at best right now, so we don't even know if he'll play. It could be rookie Anthony Brown from Oregon playing in the playoffs against Joe Burrow and the defending AFC champs. There's not much of a shot with Tyler Huntley. There's not even much of a shot with Lamar Jackson with the way that this season has gone for Baltimore down the stretch and the way it's gone for Cincinnati. Cincinnati's rolling. They'll roll in this one. Take the over. Cincinnati going to get the -8.5 and then some. Yeah, I'm rolling with the Tiger King, Joe Burrow, on Sunday night. Mitch, and that leads us our final Super Wildcard weekend game, Monday Night Football. And it's the number 5 seed Dallas Cowboys headed down to Florida to take on Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers. Can Tom Brady pull off an incredible run here? Is this his last year in Tampa? What's the future for Brady? Every year we do not know what the future holds. But I will say this, Mike McCarthy, not going to happen. He wins regular season games, but he fails in the playoffs. Give me Tampa Bay. Give me the Bucs.
Might be the toughest game of the week to pick for me.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Tampa Bay, 8-9. Things have not gone their way all year long. But what can go wrong will go wrong for the Dallas Cowboys when it comes playoff time. So where do you go? How about them Cowboys? Give me Dallas and a close one over Tampa Bay. I don't even think they cover 2.5. I'm talking 23-21.
Okay.
Dallas over Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
To get this one down. I don't want to touch the spread. And you know what?
45.5. I'd take under, honestly.
Give me under. I think I want under in this one as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just feels like a weird, fluky game, and come down to the stretch, and you're taking Dallas. I'm taking Tampa Bay. Love to see it. Love to see it, Mitch. That's it for our wild card weekend picks. One more thing before we wrap up the podcast. We asked you, the listeners, earlier today on our Instagram page. And if you don't already, there it is on the ticker. You can follow us on Instagram at the Sports Hour Guys. But we asked you, the listener, for your opinion, and we've received some feedback from you folks. So we appreciate if you shared your opinion. But we asked, who should be the Super Bowl favorite right now, headed into this point of the season as we head into the playoffs. Who should be the Super Bowl favorite? Before the season, both Mitch and I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl. I picked Bills over Rams. Mitch picked Bills over Eagles. That Bills over Eagles still looking pretty good for you.
Still look pretty good.
I'm going to read some of these responses that we've got, and then I'll ask your thoughts, and I'll give my opinion on who we think should be the Super Bowl favorite right now. But we've got a vote for the Kansas City Chiefs, courtesy of the Italian Stallion, Tanner Preseni. I think the Chiefs are going to get it done. My wife picked the Dallas Cowboys because, and this is real, because she thought the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders would do a pretty cool routine at the Super Bowl, which is true. They would they'd probably bring it, for the Super Bowl. I'd probably be able to do something cool.
Yeah, I mean,
she doesn't know about Mike McCarthy though, but but
I mean, they're the hottest cheerleaders in the NFL too. I mean, let's just be honest.
Well, there you go. I mean, there's a future top 5 list, I guess, for you.
There we go. All right.
My Aunt Jill picked the Niners. She's a big Niners fan, so she's rolling with Brock Purdy and the Niners.
Okay.
And Spencer, Ben Dixon, the Ben Dixon clan, EAGLES. Fly Eagles fly. He's rolling with his Eagles, rightfully so there. So we have a mixed bag of some of these responses here for the Super Bowl favorite. There's not one repeat there on that list. So I'll ask you first, my friend, at this point, before the Super Wildcard weekend and the NFL playoffs officially begin, who should be the Super Bowl favorite?
So my pick aside, I think the best two takes are Aunt Jill.
Okay, Niners.
I think
okay.
Niners and Spencer over there. I think that his pick with the Eagles those are the two best picks. But however, they're both incorrect. They're both wrong. Because no one circles the wagons quite like the Buffalo Bills. I'm still riding the Bills. I'm sticking with the Bills on my pick. So
yeah, I like that. I mean, I think it's fair. And listen, in the light of the Damar Hamlin situation, I just think, man, if there's a team that's going to be extra motivated at this time of the season, need that extra push and that extra motivation. I mean, who else has it? Honestly, who else has it other than the Buffalo Bills? You got to assume that'll play a bit of a factor. It'll be interesting to see how that plays. So I think Bills are a good pick. I will go with the Kansas City Chiefs at this point. I did pick the Bills before the preseason. I certainly believe that they're going to be right there. But with the way that the Chiefs have closed the season out, the way that Patrick Mahomes is playing, the control that he has right now in his game of this offense, he just always seems like he knows what to do at the right time. There's not a player in the league I trust more to make the right decision at the right moment when you need it. He just gets it done, just has that knack, and it is amazing. He's done it all year. And so I just think when it comes down to it, the Chiefs will just find a way to get it done, get back to the Super Bowl. And I think the AFC champ is going to win it regardless. Whether it's the Bengals, the Bills, the Chiefs, whoever comes out of the AFC, I think they will win the Super Bowl, but I will roll with Kansas City.
Yeah, I think that's the unfortunate circumstance of all this. Is there's going to be some really good NFC teams, but I think that the AFC right now has two juggernauts on their side. And whoever wins that AFC title game, and I think it will be Chiefs and Bills, I think that team will be prevailing over whoever the NFC champ is, unfortunately. But
don't count out Cincinnati. I'm just saying we did it last
year.
And
don't count out Cincinnati.
They went to the Super Bowl, so they'll be in that mix. They'll have a shot at probably Buffalo next week, at the 2 seed, and that'll be a hell of a matchup, Cincinnati Buffalo in the divisional potentially. So it'll be a lot of fun. Cannot wait. I mean, this weekend is the best. 6 games, 3 days. Just so much playoff football, and it is the best time of year. We love talking about it. If you're listening live, if you're watching live on YouTube and Twitter, and you have thoughts on who should be the Super Bowl favorite, you didn't enter our poll, you could do that on Instagram at the Sports Hour Guys, or let us know in the comments here who you think should be the Super Bowl favorite this season. But Mitch, that's going to do it for the podcast. So we do need to wrap it up here. It's been a pleasure to be here as always. Before we go, we do want to remind you to check out the social media pages if you don't already. As mentioned, the Instagram is at the Sports Hour Guys, the TikTok at the Sports Hour Guys. If you're not following there, you need to follow. We're posting regular content, and it's good stuff. You'll want to see these clips from the podcast and much more. So at the Sports Hour Guys there, the Twitter is at Sports Hour Guys. You can listen to us, watch us live every week on the Twitter, YouTube at the Sports Hour Guys as well. Check out the website, thesportshourguys.wordpress.com. Tomorrow I'll have my top 10 mock draft, a little more in-depth on these players and picks than we did on the podcast here. So that'll be up on the website tomorrow. Mitch, please remind the people about Anchor.
Anchor is the only place that you can become a permanent part of the conversation. Get on anchor.fm/the Sports Hour Guys. Leave us a voice message and we'll play it live right here on the show. I mean, you guys, you could literally become a part of the show if you just go on anchor.fm/the Sports Hour Guys. Leave us a voice message. We'll play it live on here. You're a part of the show. It's as simple as that. We'll play it live right here. Any question that you have, it's getting live right here on the show, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, which, by the way, if you listen to the podcast version of this show, get on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you look up the Sports Hour Guys, you will find us there. Go on Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating review, tell us that we suck, because, Dallen, that is the only way that we can get better.
Oh, yeah, it is, guys. And we would very much like to do that. So any feedback, positive or negative, would be great. Let us know in the comments. Let us know on Apple Podcasts in a review. Leave us 5 stars. Be greatly appreciated. We would like that. You'd make our year.
5 stars. 5 stars. That's all we're asking.
That's all we'd like. Guys, this has been fun. Fun as always to go live here on YouTube and Twitter. Fun as always to record the podcast, and fun to be here with you, my friend. Look at your beautiful face. Do this podcast. I forgot to ask you earlier. I thought about this like 20 minutes in, but tell the people the hat you're wearing today. Mitch always brings the hats. We do it live now. We haven't even talked about the hats you're wearing, but now we have a live. You can actually see the hat element. What hat did you bust out today for the folks?
I know. We'll have to cycle back through so we can kind of remind everyone what's going on. But we got the Down East Wood Ducks, a minor league affiliate of the Texas Rangers. I believe they're a single A affiliate. So, we got check out that bad boy up there.
Yes. You see
the duck.
Looks great.
Yeah. I think duck mascots are one of the coolest mascots that we could possibly do in sports. So,
it's pretty good. It's underrated. There's not, besides the Oregon Ducks, the Anaheim Ducks, right? I mean, it's about it. I can't think of any other major ones.
Ducks are cool, man. They're really cool. And you can make them look angry and all that stuff. And
this is a pro duck podcast. Okay.
I'll tell you what. Okay. So quite honestly, my favorite animal is the duck.
Oh.
And it's because
the corkscrew penis.
Well, that's pretty cool. But also I also have a corkscrew penis. Sorry.
I couldn't help it. I'm so sorry.
I was like, I can relate. I have a corkscrew penis.
Wait, anyway, I don't want to say that.
Oh, sorry. My bad. No, they're awkward. I'm a little awkward. And so like I can relate with the duck a little bit. Yeah. And so I love ducks as a mascot, and they're one of my favorites. So
I like that.
I can relate with them a little bit.
Yeah. We need more narwhal mascots. That's what I'm saying.
Call me the Duck Man from now on. Yeah.
The Duck Man.
Guy. The Duck Man.
Just the duck guy.
I'm a big duck guy. That's all I can say. So.
Well, if people are saying that ducking guy, I don't think that's what they meant, Mitch.
Might be yeah. It's a autocorrect. It's
every time anyone talks about me, they're like, Mitch, that ducking guy. I don't know what that means, but I do like ducks.
You know what they mean. You know what they mean because that was autocorrect. So yeah.
Oh man, so much fun. I mean, again, you're great, Mitch. You guys are great. The listeners, thanks for being here. As always, we got to wrap this thing up. But until next time, next week we'll be back for podcast as always. So pleasure being here. We love you. We appreciate you, and we will catch you next week.
So long, everybody, wherever you may be, and a pleasant good evening to you. See ya!